Strategic Aviation Holdings Health and Safety Orientation. At Strategic Aviation Holdings, the health and safety of all personnel and protection of the environment are key considerations in our daily business activities. This commitment extends to everyone, our coworkers, our customers, and you. We know that it is important to communicate our safety expectations to you. That's why we have a safety orientation, so you know how to work as safely as you can. It does not cover every situation and work activity and may require additional precautions and judgment. If you ever have any questions about your rights or responsibilities or require clarification about the material in this orientation, please contact your supervisor, regional manager, or the Health, Safety, and Environment Manager. Quoted from Mark Brown, President and CEO of Strategic Aviation Holdings Limited. All personnel who are new to our work sites will receive an initial orientation prior to starting work. The orientation will be basic in nature and will cover common safety, health, and environment topics related to the aviation and ground handling industry. A more detailed site-specific orientation will be conducted for the work area you are assigned to. As we grow our company, it is becoming increasingly important to clearly define our core values from which we develop our culture, our brand, our hiring strategies, and business strategy. We live by 10 values which are as follows. Number 1. Safety is an attitude. Number 2. Be great, always. Good does not work for us. Number 3. Build a positive team and family spirit. Number 4. Be passionate and determined. Number 5. Do more with less. Number 6. Have fun. Be creative. Number 7. Embrace and drive change. Number 8. Build open and honest relationships with communication. Number 9. Pursue growth and learning. Number 10. Be humble. It is our belief that by working together, workers, supervisors, and managers can keep the workplace incident-free. The company's commitment and involvement to safety and the environment is clearly outlined in our policies and procedures. Management plays a key role in the process by communicating the importance of safety and environment protection to all personnel. Key points of our commitment are included in our policy agreement. Employees at all levels are responsible and accountable for the company's overall safety initiatives. ZIP is just one of our safety mottos here at Strategic Aviation. We strive to prevent all incidents, accidents, injuries, and occupational illness through continuous efforts to improve the management of health, safety, and environmental risks. Management will provide the resources necessary to ensure that health, safety, and environmental standards as well as legal requirements are met. Environmental protection is the responsibility of all our employees and agents. Strategic Aviation Holdings has specific environmental practices providing information on hazards and work procedures relating to a specific work area. Environmental hazards are identified, assessed, and managed while company standards and practices are within or exceed legal requirements. At Strategic Aviation Holdings, we strive to prevent incidents that result in environmental impacts and ensure that the facilities that we operate out of are designed, operated, and maintained so that it will meet or exceed environmental standards. In order to conduct work in a safe and responsible manner, all personnel have a responsibility to understand their individual safety responsibilities. Primary responsibilities include the following: safe work procedures, participating in training, reporting incidents to their immediate supervisor. Management plays a key role in the success of the management systems and influences positive standards of behavior by communicating to employees, airlines, airport personnel, and visitors the company's commitment to safety and environmental protection. Communications are shared through initiatives such as electronic mail, company memos, and by conducting tours of work sites to observe and talk to employees about health, safety, and environmental protection. Recognizing potential hazards and taking steps to control them is the responsibility of all personnel. It requires the ability to recognize or anticipate potential hazards. Being able to determine the level of risk or danger that the hazard presents and having the knowledge or experience to implement controls will eliminate or reduce the risk to as low as reasonably practical. Some examples of potential hazards include exposure to flammable, corrosive, or toxic substances, toxic or explosive atmosphere, changing climate or conditions, and electrical, vehicle, and aircraft hazards. Strategic aviation uses the following hazard identification tools and processes to help mitigate or eliminate workplace hazards. First, they use inspections. Formal or planned inspections on all equipment and facilities serve as a proactive approach in the hazard identification process. Some of the equipment that will be inspected includes facilities like lighting, stairs, walkways, and water coolers, material handling lift trucks, de-ice trucks, fleet vehicles, and fleet emergency equipment. Personal protective equipment, emergency equipment such as fire extinguishers, eye wash stations, breathing apparatus, first aid kits, exit signs, and more. Pre-job planning is used to review work plans and discuss specific job hazards with all those working on site. This is conducted for every flight. The importance of the pre-job communication meeting is to ensure all hazards that were identified are clearly understood and documented by all personnel before the job starts. It is important to start with a safety moment and then discuss assigned duties to each worker and hazards to be aware of. A hazard is a present condition, event, object, or circumstance that could lead to an unplanned or undesired event, such as an accident. It is a source of danger. Risk, on the other hand, is the future impact of a hazard that is not controlled or eliminated. It can be viewed as future uncertainty created by the hazard. Strategic Aviation Holdings utilizes a risk assessment framework to assess all incidents for the level of risk that a hazard represents to personal health, safety, and the environment. By considering the potential severity, probability of an incident or hazard, we can proactively develop plans for appropriate corrective action. A combination of probability and severity equals risk. To give you an idea of what a risk matrix might look like, here is an example. Controls are put in place to deal with identified hazards and to eliminate or reduce the risk or danger to personnel and the environment. Where hazards cannot be eliminated, control measures must be applied in the following order. First, engineering controls must be applied, such as adding guards to moving parts or machinery and securing safe areas. Next, administrative controls such as work procedures, worker education, work scheduling, and other administrative methods should be applied. Finally, personal protective equipment should be used. This includes earmuffs, high-visibility safety vests, foot protection, and other protective equipment. Other control methods include equipment preventative maintenance, which involves daily equipment check, inspections, and maintenance procedures. Material purchasing controls, which are a written procedure for purchasing materials and services as well as for renting equipment to ensure compliance to specific engineering and/or safety standards. Equipment safety devices including backup alarms, hitch alarms, tractor beacons, grinder or belt guards, mirrors, horns, and rollover protective devices. The final control method is document retention. All safety-related documents will be kept for a minimum of 3 years. Rules, work practices, and work procedures are in place to protect personnel from known workplace hazards and to provide guidelines on employer expectations and personal conduct while at work. Strategic Aviation Holdings is responsible for setting company standards, and while not an inclusive list, examples of these standards include legislative compliance. Compliance with government rules and legislation helps the company prevent personal injuries, fines, and legal action. As a minimum standard for our HSE management system, Strategic Aviation will comply with all applicable regulatory requirements. As a worker, you have the right to know information that is related to the work you are doing and the hazards that you may face at the workplace. You also have the right and shall actively participate in safety-related training, safety inspections, safety meetings, incident reporting, and investigations. As a worker, you also have the right and responsibility to participate in identifying and correcting job-related health and safety concerns. Another standard includes the right to refuse unsafe work. It is a worker's right to refuse to perform work that is in violation of established legislation, or that poses an imminent danger to themselves or other workers. It has been proven that general appearance of workspaces and facilities has an impact on employee morale. Good housekeeping practices serve to keep the workplace clean and free to environmental or safety hazards such as slips, trips, or falls. All SAH facilities and airports alike are designated as non-smoking. Smoking is allowed in designated areas only, and care will be taken to properly extinguish all smoking materials in designated containers. Smoking in GSE equipment, forklifts, and company vehicles is prohibited. In order to reduce the potential for fire, it is important that proper methods for housekeeping, ventilation of buildings, disposal of flammable materials, and electrical grounding practices are followed. All motorized equipment, including fleet vehicles, are required, at a minimum, to have a 5 pounds ABC dry chemical fire extinguisher. Prior to attempting to control a fire, make all necessary calls for assistance. When manually lifting heavy and bulky objects, i.e. luggage, it is important that proper lifting techniques be followed. Tips for proper lifting include a warm-up stretch before lifting any load, testing the weight of the load prior to lifting by pushing on an edge. If you are uncertain of the weight, do not attempt to lift, instead seek help. Keep your head high, chin tucked in, back arched and feet shoulder-width apart to maintain a wide-based support. Lift slowly, keeping your arms and load close to your body, and lift with your legs, not your back. Turn your feet slowly, do not twist or turn at the waist. Personnel shall not operate any tool without being properly trained. Before you use any tool, you must ensure that you follow these following precautions. Always inspect tools for wear and damage prior to use. Do not use damaged tools or defective cords. In case of pneumatic tools, release the air pressure from the airline before leaving them. Use tools only for their intended purpose. Wear all personal protective equipment clothing when using tools and ensure it fits properly. Fasten sleeve cuffs so they do not become a tangling hazard. Foreign object debris prevention. Debris on the airport presents a hazard to aircraft in a number of ways. Education of all staff about the hazard posed by debris is important. Prevention through education is the first step. However, it is also necessary to have a process to regularly clean parts of the airport of debris, especially the apron areas. Removing the FOD should be the responsibility of everyone. Adverse weather presents particular difficulties in maintaining normal operation in airside capacity and safety. Local procedures should be in place for a controlled and measured response to varying conditions. These procedures may result in a reduction of capacity, but they should never result in a reduction of safety. Close cooperation between airport operation and SAH will contribute to a safe and smooth operation during adverse weather. The presence of snow and/or ice on an airport results in reduction of surface friction and a covering of surfaces. Lighting, pavement, marking, and signage can cause a serious risk to the safety of our operation. Your local airport authority should have procedures in place for cleaning runways, taxiways, emergency response routes, and aprons as well as de-icing pavements. Wind sustained or gusting in excess of 75 km per hour, 46 miles per hour, or 40 knots is referred to as high or sustained wind definition. This high wind definition is a benchmark for the commencement of local airport high wind alert plans. If the weather becomes severe enough, local airports may decide to cease operations. Catering vehicles are able to service aircraft with winds up to 40 knots. Once the wind hits 40 knots, all high-lift vehicles must drop to the ground and away from the aircraft immediately until the wind speed drops. For stations equipped with a lightning detection system, i.e. ThorGuard, Lightning Hazard Indication System, please refer to your airport directives or your ThorGuard manual. At stations that do not have a ThorGuard Lightning Hazard Indication System, the counting method shall be applied. By counting the seconds between the flash of the lightning and the bang of the thunder, you can estimate the distance between you and the lightning strike. For example, if you see lightning and it takes 15 seconds to hear the thunder, the lightning is approximately 5 kilometers away. A yellow alert is issued when lightning is detected within 8 kilometers of the airfield. Whoever made the call or alert will advise their team. All staff should prepare for a red alert situation, however, may continue regular operations until notified otherwise. This person should also inform an airline manager or representative of the alert. Fueling operations shall cease during this period. A red alert is issued when lightning is detected within 5 kilometers of the airfield. The lead will advise their team that the airport is under red alert. All activities will stop and all staff will seek shelter. The aircraft will not be docked and guests will not be permitted to enplane and deplane during a red alert. When a red alert is downgraded to a yellow alert, the lead will notify the airline manager and ramp staff that the airport is once again under a yellow alert and that it is safe to resume ramp operations. Once it has been determined that the electrical storm has moved more than 8 kilometers away from the airfield, all staff will be advised that the yellow alert has been lifted. No further precautions are necessary. It is important that you understand your responsibilities when it comes to responding to an emergency. Your initial response to an emergency should be: evacuate, get away from the hazards, and move toward the designated meeting point or safe area. Sound the alarm. Alert other personnel and call for help. Give assistance only when safe to do so. Confirm medical aid has been dispatched. Secure the area. Control entry to the scene of the incident. Notify your supervisor. Stand by for further direction. We operate at various airports which have different alarm systems to alert workers to potential hazards in the event of an emergency. It is important that you are familiar with the site-specific alarms in your area and the location of evacuation routes and muster areas. Occupational health and safety legislation has defined codes of practices to provide employers and workers with the legislative requirements for hazardous types of work and conditions. Here at Strategic Aviation Holdings, we recognize the need for these codes of practices and have developed practices of our own to educate workers on the specific hazards applicable to company operations. While not an all-inclusive list, the images shown are some examples of industry and company codes of practices. A written fall protection plan must be in place before work at heights can commence. Workers must be trained and use a fall protection system whenever working at a height of 3 meters or 10 feet above. Fall protection and fall arrest equipment, such as a safety harness and lanyard, are provided and shall be inspected before each use. This equipment should also be properly maintained, stored, and replaced accordingly to manufacturer's recommendations. When work is being conducted overhead, such as de-icing, the area below should be clear of all personnel and objects. Portable and extension ladders should only be used when there are no permanent or temporary stairways or work platforms available for the task. Before using a ladder, it is important to ensure that it is inspected for damage and placed on a level surface. It is also important to set the ladder at the proper angle. When using the ladder, do not climb higher than the 3rd step from the top. 3 points of contact should always be maintained when climbing or descending. Keep in mind that ladders are not to be placed against an unsafe support, erected on boxes, tables, scaffolding, main lift platforms, or on vehicles. We recognize that the use of alcohol and other performance-altering substances can have serious effects on the safety and well-being of its employees and work environment. All employees share the responsibility of maintaining a safe work environment free from the effects of alcohol and performance-altering drugs. The company expectation is that all workers arrive at work fit for duty. Anyone suspected of being under the influence of alcohol and/or drugs will be removed from the work site until further review by management. Driving is the highest risk activity for injury and property damage in the company. All personnel operating a vehicle on behalf of SAH are expected to drive in a safe and courteous manner and in accordance with all airport AVOP regulations. Company safe driving practices include wearing your seatbelt whenever in a vehicle, operating with a hands-free device only or pull over to the side of the road to answer or make calls. Cell phones are prohibited on the apron unless it is for work purposes. Report all driving infractions or incidents to your supervisor immediately. As part of driving safety, it is also important that you familiarize yourself with the airport and general aviation procedures, including the general geography of the local airport, aviation terminology used, such as runways, taxiways, apron, roads, crossings, etc. You should also be familiar with all standard airport signs, markings, and lights for both vehicles and aircrafts. You should know that specific reference to those signs, markings, and lights are used to guard runways, and understand specific references to any controlled or uncontrolled taxiway crossing procedures. Finally, you should be aware of prohibited and restricted driving areas. The hazards that may be encountered on an airport need to be considered when driving airside, and the following things should be observed: speed limits, prohibited areas, and no parking regulations, danger zones around the aircraft, engine suction, blast, propellers and helicopters, aircraft fueling, FOD and spillages, vehicle reversing in which you must utilize a marshaller, staff and passengers walking across the aprons, air bridges and other services such as fixed electrical ground power, general aircraft turnaround process, aircraft emergency stop and fuel cutoff procedures, transportation of dangerous goods, towing, driving at night, driving in adverse weather conditions, particularly low visibility, and congested areas of operations. To ensure your personal safety at work, Strategic Aviation Holdings provides its employees with necessary PPE and will train you in the use, care, maintenance, and limitations of the equipment. Different types of PPE include hearing protection, foot protection, high visibility safety vests, N95 respirators, and goggles or a face shield. The use of approved personal hearing protection is mandatory in areas where noise from an aircraft or other work tasks create a hazard. Example of places where you might need to wear hearing protection are the ramp or apron when a plane is coming in. If you are unsure of whether you should be wearing hearing protection, take a look around. Signage will be posted in areas where noise hazards are present. It is recommended that you wear hearing protection, such as the 3M Helter Optime 101, which has an NRR rating of 27, or Class A hearing protection. All personnel working on the apron, warehouses, or mechanical shops are required to wear protective safety footwear meeting Canadian Standards Association specifications. In order to meet these standards, the steel-toed plating must not be exposed and boots should have a good tread and be laced up to provide appropriate ankle support. Boots can be hiker style or work boots, but a 6-inch shaft to provide optimum ankle support is recommended. All employees are required to wear company-provided high-visibility vests when on the apron or when in baggage rooms. Vests should be kept clean and in good condition with adequate reflective properties. Goggles and face shields are required while conducting de-ice operations. Face shields are mandatory when servicing lavatories. Respiratory protection is recommended and may be required while conducting de-icing operations. To ensure an effective seal of breathing apparatuses, workers required to wear respiratory protective equipment must be clean-shaven where the face piece meets the skin. Beards of any description and/or 2 days of facial hair growth are not acceptable. An employee is considered to be working alone if they are alone at a worksite and assistance is not readily available. It is important to ensure that you are aware of your working alone communication system at your worksite, if applicable. Regular phone communication or check-ins will be established as necessary by workers or supervisors. Defined safety training ensures that employees are provided with the necessary skills required to conduct their work in a safe and responsible manner. Training also serves as a way to raise group awareness, improve safety communication, and provides personnel with the confidence to work safely. On-the-job training will be conducted by a senior employee or by the employee's immediate supervisor to ensure that workers under their direction and control are adequately trained and competent to do assigned work. On-the-job training is to be conducted at the time of hire prior to the worker being on their own. Strategic Aviation Holdings has established a training standard that is based on a worker's job duties and includes a number of core safety training requirements and courses. Some examples of core training requirements include instruction on the Workplace Hazardous Information System, or WHMIS 2015, transportation of dangerous goods, workplace violence and harassment, and other courses. Online courses that cover these core training requirements have been assigned to you and must be completed prior to working on the ramp. Effective communication is the key to a successful safety management system and can influence standards of behavior by communication to employees and all other stakeholders the company's commitment to safety. Daily tailgate and pre-shift discussions are to be conducted to ensure all workers are involved and aware of the job scope for the day. During these meetings, it is a good practice to start with a safety moment. It is a legislative requirement that Strategic Aviation Holdings conduct scheduled meetings that are intended for group communication and information sharing. These meetings are structured in a way that allows for consistent communication throughout the company as well as the specific needs for each base. This is dependent on incidents, but should include monthly safety topics. With regards to incident reporting and investigation, the expectation is that employees must immediately report all incidents or accidents that result in loss, damage, or injury to their supervisor or Strategic Aviation Holdings management representative, and document the event within our SMS database Intellex. Timelines for investigation and responsibilities are listed in the Health and Safety Manual and on the company intranet under Health and Safety. You will learn more about incident investigation and filling out a report in Intellex through the corresponding online courses that have been assigned to you. If you suffer a work-related injury or illness while at work, it is extremely important that you report it to your immediate supervisor and health and safety manager prior to seeking medical attention. This is to ensure that Strategic Aviation Holdings and the Provincial Worker Compensation Board can provide you with the appropriate medical attention, financial assistance, and that worker compensation records are submitted within the established 72-hour time frame. Strategic Aviation Holdings will explore possible work alternatives for you, such as light or modified duties until you return to full capacity. If a release should occur, it is important that the product be contained, not be allowed to spread or migrate into a waterway, and be cleaned up as soon as possible. We are responsible for ensuring the spill contents and materials used in our cleanup efforts are properly stored and disposed of in accordance with all municipal, provincial, and federal laws and regulations. All releases or environmental incidents must be reported to the Health and Safety Manager immediately, who will then assist with determining reporting requirements. This concludes our Health and Safety Orientation. We hope that this course has given you a sense of the safety, health, and environment policies and procedures in place at Strategic Aviation Holdings. Working together, we can achieve our objective in ensuring the health and safety of all personnel as well as the protection of the environment. If you have any questions about your rights or responsibilities or require clarification on any of the material in this orientation, please contact your supervisor, regional manager, or health and safety manager. When you are ready, please continue to the final quiz.